welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. On today's show, we're joined by Pastor Charles Salinas, Executive Director of Dawn Treader Christian School in Paterson. But first, we will recognize Children's Grief Awareness Month by speaking with Lindsay Schambach, Executive Director of Imagine, an organization that provides free peer grief support groups for New Jersey children and young adults coping with loss. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to finally be here with you. I know a very dear mutual friend of ours, Ken Zantz. He's been willing this to happen for a very long time, and we love Ken over at Alzheimer's New Jersey, so thank you. And
My
Lindsay, I just can't think of an organization more important for children in such need, because processing grief at any age is so difficult, but especially for children. Can you go into what Imagine does?
I feel so lucky to lead this organization that holds a very special place in my heart. Imagine is a place for children who are coping with loss, children who've experienced the death of a parent, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent. We don't discriminate who it is that you've lost. If you're grieving, you belong at Imagine. And our core program is called Nights of Support, which means that children and families of all ages from 85 different towns across New Jersey come together. We have dinner, we share stories. Our children are in age-appropriate groups with one another while their caregivers are in other groups. And it brings together people who are grieving and experiencing loss so that they can share their stories and be understood by people who are going through something similar. So that is our core program in our center in Mountainside. And just this January, we launched a program in Newark as well. So we serve approximately 600 children and families from all across our state who come through our free peer-to-peer support program.
I saw a statistic recently that 1 in 13 children in New Jersey will lose a parent before the age of 18. I can't believe it's that frequent that it happens, and it's just so sickening. How do you help make sure that the child dealing with such a loss has a nice childhood experience?
We say a lot that children who experience this loss can grow up to be healthy, happy adults if they're given the space to understand their loss matters and that they have the space to have all their feelings about the loss. And so at Imagine, one of the first steps is making sure that children understand first that their loss really matters. Second, that grief is all the feelings that children feel about loss. And those feelings we want to normalize, that it can be hard, it can be painful. There may be feelings of guilt, there may be feelings of relief, and that none of those feelings are feelings that a child should feel ashamed about. And then last, we talk to children about mourning. And mourning is what you do about the feelings you're having. What we're trying to teach our children is that their stories are theirs and that they can tell that story when they feel safe and if it's someone that they trust who can listen. So we truly believe that our kids, that 1 out of 13 kids who experience a loss of a parent or a sibling in New Jersey, that they deserve safe spaces where they are in community with others and that their losses will be held and that they will be safe to share their stories.
They absolutely deserve that space. Who makes up the Imagine team?
We have approximately 12 staff members here at Imagine. We have a large clinical team that consists of child life specialists, social workers, myself. I'm a former educator. We have a training and education team here at Imagine that has been one of our most exciting initiatives right now. We know that there are grieving children in every classroom and every school across New Jersey, knowing that that statistic is true. And being a former teacher and a principal myself, I know how often grief shows up in our classrooms. And so our staff spends their full-time jobs ensuring that we are what we call increasing the density of grief-informed adults in our community. Many other types of loss and grief show up in schools every day. And so the staff at Imagine spend their full time working on ensuring that there's grief-informed adults in the lives of children all across our state.
What should adults watching be mindful of when dealing with a child that is going through something?
One of the first things that we say is that children deserve to know the truth. That can be so difficult and so challenging for adults, but we say that our children are really capable of much more than we give them credit for. That as adults, we always say that like more is caught than taught, which means that our kids pick up on our experiences of grief and loss, and that they learn how to grieve by watching all of us. So as adults, what we want to do is we want to be comfortable and confident having difficult conversations with kids, which we know is easier said than done. And so Imagine provides free webinars throughout our year that everyone in our community we welcome into, especially this month during Children's Grief Awareness Month. We offer a webinar on how to talk to children about death and dying because our kids learn from us. So we first say, tell the truth. Second, we say, be an active listener. Follow the lead of our children. If they ask for more information, provide it in the age-appropriate manner that you can, and then provide safe space for our children to have all of their feelings and all of their questions. That's the first thing that we would hope for most of the children in our lives, is just to understand and to respect their experiences of grief.
Absolutely. You seem to care so much. And you're an executive director for a reason, right, of this organization. How did you get involved?
I think a lot of ways. It's kind of surprising as I look back at my experiences with loss, but as a young 13-year-old, I lost my grandfather. That was a painful experience, but I didn't really think much of it until at 21 years old, I experienced the death of my father as a young teacher in the city of Newark. And that loss hurt so much. It took years before I was able to talk about my father without getting the words choked in my throat. And then as a young 34-year-old mother, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. At the time, I became a 35-year-old widow with a 4-year-old son and a 4-week-old daughter. And I used Imagine services myself. And at the time, I felt so alone. But at Imagine, my son and I found friends, we found community, we found people who had been struggling with the same things we were. I, at the time, was a principal in the city of Newark, and I loved my job. And as my children transitioned back to school, one of the things I realized was how everything I thought I did as a principal and as a teacher just truly wasn't enough. That I provided support in the immediate aftermath of a loss for a child, but I didn't realize that it was the milestones that our children went through weeks and months and years after the loss, where they also needed support. And so becoming the executive director here, I had an opportunity, one, to make sure that the kindness that was given to me when I was a grieving mother and a grieving wife was also given to every mother and father and wife and partner across our state. So first, I get the chance to pay it back, which I feel so grateful to do. And then second, at Imagine, we always say, when we know better, we do better. And so I now have an opportunity to help schools in our state show up for kids in ways that help their losses be transformed into empathy and compassion, instead of being the aftermath of a loss, something they also have to handle and to get over as well.
Lindsay, first of all, I'm so sorry. I had no idea coming into this interview what you experienced, and my heart just goes out to you. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, but you use those experiences, especially your husband, into just growing this amazing organization and helping so many in need. I mean, you're serving 600 individuals across 85 towns across the Garden State. I mean, that's just so commendable.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's one of those things that we all know someone who has experienced this level of loss, but until you've walked in those shoes, it can be really hard to imagine truly how devastating it can be and how much support a family might actually need and want. Imagine's been lucky enough to have a wonderful founder and an amazing staff that created this organization where our support is 100% free for families. And the reason that's important is that grieving families are going through so many what we call secondary losses. There's potentially the loss of an income. There can be the loss of security and safety within the home. We see like housing instability, sometimes food insecurity for our families. And so grieving parents should not have to choose between paying a mortgage and getting grief support for their children. And we're lucky enough to have wonderful partners at both the JCC of Central Jersey and the YMCAs locally, which provide 1-year free membership to all Imagine families because there's this opportunity to rebuild after. And sometimes we need new community, new experiences to help rebuild life around our loss and to integrate that loss. And so those partnerships mean so much to our families because they get the opportunity to be healthy both mentally as well as physically through these partnerships. And those are the kinds of things that Imagine and the experiences that many of our staff have been through, and listening to our families, we amend and grow our programming to better support those families.
How do you get the funds to support your initiative?
Through a lot of hard work, and a lot of generosity. We are funded 65% by individual generosity of donations from people in our community, and then our granting partners. We have quite a few that we are blessed to have had over these years. Our founder is Dr. Jerry Glasser in partnership with Mary Robinson and Keith Hertel. And so the Glasser Foundation has been one of our longest supporters. We're in partnership with the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey right now, which is supporting much of our work in our Newark schools. And then many others, local family organizations that believe in our work, people who have experienced loss and so they want to show up, and many people who have not experienced loss but can imagine what it would be like and want to be a part of making sure that children have a second chance after a devastating loss in their lives.
Well, for a full circle moment for you, you recently opened the permanent location in Newark, right? So before you were going through your grief journey, you were a principal in Newark, and now you have your location there. What prompted this expansion, and how proud are you to see this through?
I was lucky enough to have a wonderful organization that had expanded to Newark in 2019. And so our board, our founder, our staff knew about Newark before I even came on the scene. And I say it's so important because I don't know that I would have ended up here because my commitment has always been to the children of Newark. So our expansion by leasing our space at 570 Broad Street was because what we knew was that we didn't want to have any barriers to grief support for our children. Sometimes transportation can be a barrier. Sometimes it's timing of day. How do I get there? So this space at 570 Broad is so beautiful. The rooms are built to hold the stories of families, to create joy and laughter in our children's groups. We have a littles group, middles group, our teens. We provide Spanish-speaking adult support, grief groups for adults who've experienced the death of a child, and then grief groups who've experienced, for adults who've experienced the death of a partner. And so over my, how many years? 10 years as an educator in the city of Newark, there are so many families that I hold close. And I know and I wish that this center had existed for them when they were in the early stages of their loss. But our center exists now. And so we have our location in Mountainside that is 11,000 square feet, and our location in Newark, which right now is about 4,000 square feet. And we've been partnering with 58 school districts across New Jersey to help make this work in schools happen.
You are also going to Trenton. There's a bipartisan bill, S3330. What does that mean for grief education in the Garden State?
Yes, on January 4th, Governor Murphy signed a grief bill into law. What this means is that it allows children in grades 8 through 12 to learn about grief and loss in their classes. This bill is set up that it is designed to be in the PE and health classes. And so this grief bill allows teachers, educators, mental health professionals in the schools to actually teach children what is normal, what is expected in grief. How do they respond, and how do they support themselves and support others?
Lindsay, finally, as I mentioned at the top of this segment, November is recognized as Children's Grief Awareness Month. How is Imagine commemorating this time?
We've been aiming to raise awareness all across our state. And so, thank you so much for having us. Governor Murphy just signed a proclamation having November 21st be National Children's Grief Awareness Day here in the state of New Jersey. And we have 10 other mayors who are also signing proclamations to raise awareness in their towns for the needs of children's grief support. Additionally, this month we're sharing stories on our social media and via email of children who are experiencing grief and loss right now, children who are utilizing Imagine services, who want to share their story, who want their grief journey to be witnessed. And so we feel so grateful to be able to help raise awareness of what the experiences are. Some of our children at Imagine sharing their stories this month are as young as 7 years old. And the more they tell their stories, the more likely our children in our lives feel as though they are entitled to share theirs as well.
Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on here today. I am so happy Ken brought us together. You are a true rock star. I mean, what you've been able to accomplish in the face of adversity and to just be where you are, it's so inspiring. Definitely one of my favorite guests on here, and I wish we had more time. Where can people access your resources and learn about Imagine?
Our website is imaginenj.org, and Instagram keeps everyone really up to date, so you can definitely check us out there. We invite you to follow Imagine, sign up for our newsletter that goes out each month, and join us at events, join us with opportunities to commemorate Children's Grief Awareness Month and to share your own story of loss. Imagine would be happy to hold that story for you.
Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on here. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Same to you. My pleasure. Take care.
Nothing has ever been handed to me. I've had to work for it. On the field. And off the field. Kane worked with me. Guided me. Helped me climb higher. To get where I belong. To change my life.
Hey, welcome to the team.
Cougars climb higher. Kane University.
Pastor Charles Salinas is Executive Director of Dawn Treader Christian School in Patterson, the last independent Christian school in the city, which has grown from 25 to 117 students under his leadership, while providing scholarships funded by generous donors. Pastor Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you inviting us to be part of the show. It's amazing.
What inspired you to transition from a corrections officer to the executive director of Dawn Treader Christian School?
Well, I would say that was completely a God thing. That was not a Charles Salinas thing, because I had other plans, but God wanted me there for a specific assignment, which I know now is for the betterment of our children and the city of Patterson. Like you shared before, Dawn Treader is the last evangelical Christian school still in the city of Patterson.
Why do you think Dawn Treader was the last school standing?
Well, I think a lot of things have changed throughout the years regarding faith, Christianity. People are not too able to afford Christian education, even though that Dawn Treader from the beginning has been the most affordable school or Christian private school and probably in the country. Like I always say, our tuition is at $4,800, and when it started it was probably around maybe $1,500 a month. A couple of things have caused that Dawn Treader would be the last Christian school still standing in Patterson. I believe sometimes lack of faith and lack of values and morals.
So how did you take your school and bring it from only 25 students to almost 120?
Well, that was a progressive, just a progressive work of just coming together with like-minded people of faith that believed in the vision for Christian education in Patterson still, and just continuing to plug away and continue to share the mission of Dawn Treader, which started in 1977. So to answer your question, it was just a collaborative effort of getting together, uniting with people that still care and still care about Christian education, and having them help us share the story with anyone and everyone that we can.
How does Dawn Treader serve the Patterson community, and what role do you think it plays in the lives of your students and their families?
Well, it plays a big role, huge role, because as the only Christian school in Patterson, we are teaching faith values. We are teaching trusting in God, trusting in the journey that sometimes will be challenging, but also gratifying for those that believe. Every family, student, or even community person, because we consider Dawn Treader a community center as well. Every person that comes through our doors, I believe, is impacted by just a simple word called love, loving and caring for those that need faith, that need to be strengthened, that need to believe again. So we are proud of that.
Talk about the curriculum that you have implemented.
We have a curriculum of BJU, that's Bob Jones University curriculum. It's a faith-based curriculum, which means that in everything as far as language arts, mathematics, reading, writing, a biblical worldview is implemented in our curriculum. So our students are learning a little bit about the Bible, even when they're learning about math, when they're reading, when they're learning about history. They're also learning about the history of the Bible. So that is what makes it unique and very special.
What ages are you serving?
So we serve kindergarten through eighth grade right now. That means 5-year-olds all the way around 13-year-olds. Yeah, that's for our regular classes. But in our extracurricular activities, as far as the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, we service kids all the way to 18, 19 years old, and also adults, because we have service in our building. We have worship services, and we also have mentorship and discipleship courses throughout the week and in the weekend.
Can you explain how your scholarship program works to allow these students to come to your school?
Yes, that's very important. So to educate a child, for us at Dawn Treader, it costs us around $15,000 to educate a child, compared to the public school system, which is around 21,000. So it's a little bit cheaper for us, but for every child that comes in, we have to raise the difference of what they're paying in tuition. So if they're paying $4,800 a year, we have to raise up the $10,200 per student. So in reality, every student that walks through our doors is receiving some kind of scholarship and some kind of financial aid walking in through the doors.
That is so amazing that you are able to do that. How do you raise funds to make that happen?
Well, we raise funds through generous donors that give, that believe in Christian education. We also have fundraising events throughout the years. We continue to promote, whether through social media, Facebook, our website. This platform that I'm in today, it's a huge, huge way of us getting exposure, and us getting, the possibility of someone hearing about the story and wanting to give.
Well, thank you to past Your New Jersey guest Robert Skeed for introducing us to you. We are so happy to have you on the show.
Oh wow, yeah. Rob is a faithful friend of Dawn Treader, and he's a good friend of mine for many years. And he loves Dawn Treader. He's always gonna root for Dawn Treader and wanna put Dawn Treader in a good position where it could succeed. So I thank Rob for that. He's amazing.
Well, we are rooting for Dawn Treader as well. Looking into the future, what aspirations do you have for the school and how it services the community?
So, in the next 2 years, our plans are to start a pre-K program, K3 and K4, and we want to service our 3-year-olds, our 4-year-olds. It will also help us in a way where it will become a feeder for our school, where we never want to be in a place where we're being challenged or threatened that our doors will be closed. So I think that that's a huge way that we can make that a possibility. Make or have our own feeder program that will make sure that we have students constantly coming through our doors, starting from 3-year-olds to 4-year-olds, which there's a lot of parents always looking for a good preschool program in Patterson.
The best success stories are made one day at a time, and you were on that path. Pastor, where can our viewers learn more?
We are heavily in Instagram, Dawn Treader Christian and also Facebook, Dawn Treader Christian, and they could go to our website, dawntreaderchristian.org, and they can find more information there in our website.
Pastor, thank you so much for coming on here today, and congratulations on everything you've been able to accomplish in Patterson.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for the opportunity of just sharing a little bit of our story and who we are as a people of faith in the city of Patterson.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We'll see you back here next week.
Nothing has ever been handed to me. I've had to work for it. On the field. And off the field. Kane worked with me, guided me, helped me climb higher. To get where I belong. To change my life.
Hey, welcome to the team.
Cougars climb higher. Kane University.